Welcome to Wellness Wednesday, and it's another exciting day for all of us. I have with us Dr. J from South Africa. Justin, welcome to the show.
Good to
and
see you, Roshan.
super happy to have you with
Thank
us.
you.
And
Thank
you know,
you.
you are a motivational speaker. You're a coach. You're a superstar. You're a celebrity. You do all kinds of crazy stuff. But we had this great conversation on how happiness essentially is tied to wellness, and ultimately, the happier you are, the healthier you are,
Right.
and many other things, right? And we're gonna
Sure.
we're gonna deep dive into that. So I thought, although it's a Thursday, we're gonna do Wellness Wednesday on a Thursday. Justin, welcome to this show of ours that we talk about wellness, we talk about health, we talk about how to live longer, how to live happier, how to live in a way that enables you to be very productive and be able to execute. And so let's deep dive into this: the science of happiness, 5 keys to emotional happiness. But I think more importantly is, you made a point to me earlier that happiness can lead to health, but also wealth. And I think that's intriguing, right?
Yeah.
It's not just health, like it's also wealth, right?
Sure.
So let's start with happiness, because it says when you're happier, you're wealthier, you're healthier. But happiness seems to be an illusion, a myth. How does one really get to happiness? I mean, most people will say, you're happy when things go well for you,
Right.
when you get
Right.
shit done, when you do this, when there's a certain event or there's a moment or then that triggers happiness, right?
Yeah.
But you seem to say something slightly different, right?
Well, of course, those positive events have a direct impact on how we feel, right? You get the promotion, you get the raise, you meet the girl or guy of your dreams. That's going to boost your happiness. But what we now know is that it's only for a brief period of time. So research shows that if you ask most people who are looking to get a promotion, if they get that promotion they believe that it'll raise their happiness by 20%, and if they don't get the promotion, they believe that it'll reduce their happiness by 20%. Now it turns out that they're right about the increase and the reduction, but they're not right about the duration. They think that it'll increase their happiness forever. It doesn't. It's only for about 3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months, they go back to the same emotional state they were in before they got the promotion. And the good news is, if they didn't get the promotion, their happiness only drops for about 3 to 4 months and then goes back to their baseline. So we call this the baseline level of happiness. And all those events, those things that happen, the good things, the not so good things, they pretty much bounce us around our baseline level of happiness. And this is what scientists have really struggled with. How do we sustainably increase our happiness?
So the idea is to increase that baseline, right?
Exactly.
How do
to
you get
shift
that?
the baseline.
So regardless of the
Right.
events, the baseline is much higher, right?
Exactly. And I think most of us have the sense that happiness follows success, right? So if I consistently, achieve success, then I'm going to be happy. In fact, we now see that it's more true to say that happiness produces success more than success produces happiness. There is a correlation between emotional well-being and business success. So, for example, the Parnassus Workplace Fund only invests in happy companies. It has a 7% higher return than average. Happy people sell 56% more. They're 31% more productive. They're 19% more accurate. And you only have to think, how happy are you when you are, or rather, how successful are you when you're frustrated? How well can you sell, serve, or lead when you're distressed, down? Yeah. When we are feeling good, we're doing good, right? You're more compassionate, you're kinder, you're more creative.
I already feel better now. But I mean, this is a lot of people say, yeah, we know that's motherhood statements and so on. But how do I attain this happiness?
Right.
How do I get to increase my baseline
Right.
of happiness? Right. I mean, that's the elusive question, right?
Right. Well, I'll give you a way to do it more than if you had won the lottery. And by now, you should know that winning the lottery is not going to sustainably increase your happiness. And I can just imagine people out there saying, put me in that research and I'll prove myself the exception. And here I'll prove that you won't be the exception. Just think about your birthday presents that you got last year. Now, if your birthday was more than a few months ago, are you as excited as when you got them on that day? Probably not, right? And psychologists call this habituation. We get desensitized to the things that we have in our lives. It's the hedonic treadmill. Hedonic from pleasure, from the ancient Greek pleasure. It's you feel like you're getting ahead, but actually you're staying in the same place. because we go back to baseline. So what could you do that would boost your happiness more than winning the lottery? Gratitude. And I know that sounds like an episode of Oprah, but this is research out of Stanford University, Robert Emmons. If every day you focus on 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for, that has happened that day, right? Not just a shopping list, or I'm grateful for my job and I'm very grateful for my life, but really focus on specific moments, a moment you had with your kid, a meal that you had. I mean, when I had the privilege of having dinner with Roshan and his beautiful wife, Amelia, last night. And really, it was such a, when I went to bed, when I went through my gratitudes, one of them was spending time with you and your wonderful wife. Roshan's wife is an artist, and she was showing me this beautiful art. And now that was lovely in the moment. But when at the end of the day, I remember the conversation that I had with Amelia and the picture on the wall, the beautiful colors and then I'm getting it right now, right? I'm reigniting my pleasure in that moment. Right? It's like a reboot of happiness when you give gratitude. And Emmons has found that if you do this consistently, you'll actually boost your happiness by 20%. That will be sustained. That is more than winning the lottery.
So just by and being grateful and having this gratitude, but you need to make that habitual, right?
You need to make it habitual. And this is, habits are the holy grail of transformation. I'm obsessed with transformation. Right. I've got a doctorate in human transformation because I've wanted to understand what does it take. We know, Roshan, we're in the business of, going out there and creating learning experiences, but learning is not what goes into your head. Learning is a change of behavior, and not changing it once, but consistently. If you only brush your teeth once, you're still going to have rotten teeth. Yeah. You got to brush them every single day to guarantee your dental hygiene. You do gratitude once, okay, it'll feel nice then. But if you really want to sustainably boost your happiness, you've got to do it every day. It's got to become a habit. And the technology of habit creation is what I'm really obsessed about, because it's unfortunately not as simple as saying, I want to do this. You only have to ask yourself, have you had a New Year's resolution that you never achieved, right? We've all been there. And it wasn't because you didn't know what to do. I mean, if you think about it, success is not rocket science, right? Yep. You want to lose weight, move more, eat less. You want to create wealth, cut down your spending, get out of debt, save and invest. You want to stay married, stop trying to be right all the time. You can't be right and be married at the same time.
Absolutely.
That's why you have such a great marriage.
I'm always wrong. But we've got a quick question from Ruben. Ruben, let me just show you a question. Excellent topic. Are there specific practices or habits that small business owners can adapt to maintain a healthy balance between happiness, health, and wealth? This from Ruben, probably a small business owner himself, right? Ruben, thanks for the question. Justin, your thoughts on that?
Thanks, Ruben. And I want you to know that Roshan, you're as obsessed with culture as I am. Culture is what we do in organizations. You've got this fantastic app, Budaya, which really helps you to build that culture. Well, if you're looking for the litmus test of a great culture, it's how happy are your people, right? That's what it's about.
Absolutely.
And so, I think we need to see that it's not just about the balance, between, and thank you for not using the term, Ruben, work-life balance. I always find it such an odd term, as if work isn't life. Work, it can be more fun than fun, right? I love what I do. Work is love made visible. The work is life, right?
Absolutely.
And so, but yes, we want to make sure that our work is happy, right? And so I guess the question is, for me, I'd want to adapt that question a little bit and say, how do I bring more happiness into work? Because when you're happy at work, you will have more health, you will have more wealth. So rather than thinking about it, well, balance, okay, so work, and then I must leave work and then go and do a workout or work on my body or something, which, yes, absolutely, you do need to, because working out on our bodies affects our minds. But how can we bring more happiness into work so that work actually becomes a booster of happiness? Work becomes a booster of health. And of course, work becomes a booster of our wealth. There are many things, and one of the things that I love about Budaya is recognition and appreciation. One of those powerful ways to boost your happiness is appreciation. In fact, the number one reason people leave a job is a lack of appreciation. And it might sound like all kind of touchy and soft and fluffy, but this directly impacts our productivity. Beautiful study, Cornell University. They take a group of doctors, divide them into two. The one group get a token of appreciation just to say, thank you, really appreciate the great work you're doing. The other group get nothing. They go, they do the diagnosis. The ones who get that appreciation achieve their diagnosis in half the time and are nearly 20% more accurate. And that is because your emotional well-being is directly connected to your mental focus. So one way is, Ruben, I would suggest that bring appreciation into your work. Every day, make a commitment. I'm going to catch 3 people doing things right. Use the Budaya app. Get people to appreciate one another. It's not just top down, right? We see high appreciation teams or high performance teams. We need to create a culture of appreciation. One of the simplest, most powerful ways to boost the happiness of your people and boost your business.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I know you wanted to talk about 5 key elements. I'm assuming gratitude is one of them.
I don't think we're going to get to all of them, but gratitude is part of positivity.
Okay.
Right. So positivity is directly connected to our emotional well-being. Just think about it. When you're negative, when you are pessimistic, how happy are you and how successful are you? Right. So we want to actively cultivate more positivity, and we can do it through recognition, through actively appreciating others. By the way, appreciating others is external gratitude. So when you say thank you to someone, the reason it feels so good, and that's why when people say to me, yeah, just because, by the way, in relationships, biggest complaint spouses have about one another is lack of appreciation. And I mention that, and people often say, yeah, I wish my spouse would appreciate me more. And I say, well, how often do you appreciate them? Because the real gift is in the giving. When I say, thank you, Roshan, for that beautiful dinner last night, I feel richer, for having had that dinner. So the gift really is in the giving of that appreciation. It's an act of gratitude, interpersonal gratitude. Right. So positivity comes through appreciation, and it's also just how we see things. It's understanding that thoughts are not reality. Thoughts are an interpretation of reality, right? You can see it as a problem, or you can see it as an opportunity. You can see it as a wound, or you can see it as potential wisdom, right? Because that's how we learn and grow. The greatest thing that ever happened to David was Goliath. So it's about how we reconfigure the challenges in our lives to see the growth opportunities. That has a profound impact on how we feel and what we do.
I'm just going to get you to clarify that the greatest thing that ever happened to David was Goliath, right? Because again, some people may not understand the context of that. Maybe just 30 seconds, 40 seconds, quick context to that.
So David and Goliath is a great story in the Old Testament of the Bible. And there was David, who was this little guy, and he was put up against Goliath, who was this giant, right? And Goliath had just mowed down everyone. And David now had to go out there and he had to do battle with Goliath. And you can imagine how scary that is. That was a major, major challenge. What David did is, and this is the great question that we need to ask ourselves, is what can I do about it? And what he realized was that, yes, he could never take Goliath on muscle for muscle because he didn't have the same muscle. But what he did have was a great skill at slingshot, right? And so he knew that if he could get enough distance, he would be able to slay Goliath. If he'd only have 1 or 2 shots before Goliath came after him, but if he could get that right, he would be able to kill Goliath in 1 shot, and he did.
Yeah.
To do that, he had to build his courage. He had to build his skill at slingshot.
Right.
He had to grow as a human. So the best thing that happened, and then he became king. Right? He became king of the Hebrews. Right? So he wouldn't have been king if he never had the challenge of Goliath.
Right. So likewise, the obstacles in our life define us and enable us and grow us. And
they can. I think, and again, it's how we think about them. If we go, oh, this is so unfair, this shouldn't be happening, why is this happening? I mean, I think like a lot of people, last year was a tough year financially. Financial investments went down. You see your bank balance going down, and that's not nice, right? It's unpleasant. We don't like that. But what is the opportunity in losing money? Okay, great. I need to be more skillful in how I manage money. I need to create. What is money? It's the applause that we get for bringing value into the world. I've got to bring more value into the world, right? So if you see it in that way, your financial loss could actually be an incredible stepping stone to wealth creation.
Fantastic. So let's zoom into. You said there are 5 keys or traits or sort of success factors, right?
Right.
When it comes to having emotional happiness, right?
Yeah.
What are they?
So positivity is one of them, right?
Right.
We really do need to shift our mindset. Personal responsibility. We've got to take ownership here of our emotional well-being, right? We want to make sure that we prioritize happiness, that we do the things that make us happy. Many people think, well, I just got to kind of go through my life and it'll just happen. Well, no, you actually need to take responsibility for that and realize that your happiness actually is a superpower, because when you feeling good, you're doing good. So what are the things that you can do that make you feel happy? There's a great app called Track Your Happiness, and it goes off periodically through the day randomly, and you've got to say what you're doing, what you're thinking, and what you're feeling. And what's really interesting is that if you ask people before they use this app what makes them happy, they don't always know, or they think some things make them happy. They might say shopping, but actually when they then reflect back on in the moment. So Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winner, says there's remembered happiness and experienced happiness. So we often remember ourselves as being happier or less happy than we actually are. That's why you want to measure it in the moment. And then you suddenly realize, wow, whenever I'm with this person, I'm not so happy. Oh dear, I'm married to them. Maybe I need to work on my relationship, right? But it shows you, hey, when I'm in the garden, I'm happy. Great, I need to spend more time in the garden, right? So that's a really great way to help you figure out what are the things that make you happy and what don't.
Interesting. So positivity.
So positivity.
How do you build up that reservoir of positivity?
Well, so we do it through gratitude. We do it through the questions that we ask ourselves. So one of the questions that I really like to ask is, what is good about this challenge, right? So how can I learn from it and grow from it? But what's really interesting about the Track Your Happiness app is that most of the time, whatever people are doing, they're thinking about something else. And if they are present in the moment, truly present, what the Russian psychologist Michael Csikszentmihalyi calls flow, when they're in the moment. And again, I was talking to your wonderful wife last night, Amelia. She's an artist. When she's painting those pictures, she's in flow, right? She's not thinking about you, Roshan, or the kids, or anyone else, right? She is totally absorbed, right, as she's putting those colors on. Now, you'll see it with racing drivers. You'll see it. It can be in business. When you're totally absorbed in a task, you're in flow. But if you're thinking about something else, and over 50% of the time, what this app shows is that we're generally thinking about something else, we are less happy. And this, of course, is what they really got right in the East. This idea that actually, if we can bring ourselves into the moment, be here now, as the great Ram Dass said, and we can do that through meditation. We can do it when we're fully engaged in an activity that is not too difficult, right? Because then we start to get stressed, but not too easy, because then it gets boring. That's when we can get into this presence. So that's the second P, is presence, or the third is presence, being in the moment. So you can do it through a task. You can also do it through certain forms of meditation. You can also do it, even through playing sports, right? If you really get engaged, we do get tremendous pleasure. You see, this thinking that we're doing is often about thinking what's wrong with our lives. And this is the fascinating thing. I was teaching this for many years, and I noticed that I was still pretty negative. Beating yourself up because you're negative is not a great way to become more positive. And then the research of the neuroscientist Rick Hansen I came across, and what he shows is actually we all have this negativity bias. The brain is constantly thinking about what's wrong. That's why you go up to people and say what's wrong. You don't say what's right, because the brain doesn't actually care about happiness nearly as much as it cares about survival, right? And so it's constantly trying to solve problems. Now, we live in the most unprecedented comfort and safety in the history of humankind. I mean, people don't get that, right? But you just think about it. I mean, childhood mortality is down, poverty is down. People say, what about this epidemic? Yeah, think about the epidemic. There's one about every century. The last one killed
150 million or something.
Exactly. The Black Plague in Europe killed 2/3 of Europe. This one has killed, 5 million? I know we prefer it didn't kill anyone, but back then they also didn't have Netflix, and they didn't have Zoom, and they didn't have, right? And so we are, like, if our caveman ancestors had to look at our lives, they would think that we were in heaven, right? Oh, they've got incredible food and shelter, and they never have to really worry about survival if they're in the middle class, admittedly. And they just have one question: why are they so depressed and anxious and down in paradise? They think, like, what the heck's going on, right? And then you realize it's got less to do with what's going on out there and more to do with what's going on in here.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to check a couple of comments in a bit soon, but let me zoom into that. You talked about positivity and being present, right? The first P, we didn't talk about that, right?
Personal responsibility. So that, I think, is really realizing that you've got to choose this. I mean, in some ways, happiness is a choice. Now, I want to be careful here, because this doesn't mean being happy 24/7. Negative emotions are important, Roshan. They have their place. Anger, can tell you that, hey, there's something that it needs to change here, that needs to shift. Sadness, resentment, all of these to a degree have their place. Emotion comes from the Latin meaning to move, right? So the intention of emotion is to get us to take action so that we can change the situation, right? If we didn't have any negative emotions, actually very problematic, then it's actually a psychiatric condition called mania. And people give away their money and they take off their clothes because they have no sense that anything can go wrong. So negative emotions have their place. Sadness has its place. This is part of the rich tapestry of life. Ironically, one of the ways to be a little bit happier is to accept that you're not going to be happy all the time, and that's okay. The problem is when you get into anxiety or depression. So fear is an important emotion. Fear is a response to a real threat. There's something going on that I need to deal with, right? My investments have tanked, and now I've got to figure out how to fix this, right? Anxiety is a response to perceived threats. Actually, my investments are fine, but I'm worrying about them tanking. Actually, my relationship is okay, but I'm anxious about my wife or my husband leaving me, right? So anxiety is this perceived threat. Now that can become problematic, right? When you're scared of giving speeches, right? And so it holds you back because you now don't fulfill your potential in the business world because there's no real threat about giving a speech, right? Okay, admittedly, if you give a really terrible speech and you say something that, but much nobody's going to do that, right? And so they're scared of this thing that actually doesn't, it was the Roman philosopher Seneca who said, we suffer far more in imagination than in reality. Now, imagination is human superpower. Our ability to think is our superpower. The ability to learn from the past, to envision the future, right? This is what enables us to create. But overthinking, what I call worrying, analysis, and rumination, well, that is like inflammation. It's an adaptive immune response gone rogue. And humans, we have this incredible operating system, but it has a few bugs. And one of them is that we are all prone to worrying, to rumination. And that is the biggest predictor of anxiety and depression, right? That overthinking that we do. And that's when these emotions become dysfunctional, right? So again, nothing wrong with some anger, with some sadness, but when you're waking up every day with anxiety or depression, then we've got ourselves a problem.
Right. And so to take personal responsibility, what does that mean?
Well, I think realizing that you can change your behavior, you can change your thoughts, and you also might need some help here. You've got a toothache, you go to the doctor. If you're struggling with anxiety or depression, what do you do, right? You want to go to a coach or a therapist, or do the breakthrough training that we discussed. You want to take action on this rather than assuming that it's just the way that it is.
Got it. Okay. So it's taking personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility, because I love this word responsibility. It's the ability to respond. We don't choose everything that happens to us. Our partner dumps us, a car bashes into us, we come down with COVID. We may not have chosen that, right? I mean, some of those things, perhaps there are things that we did, but we're always going to make mistakes, and we want to make sure not to beat ourselves up. That doesn't help anyone. It really doesn't. By the way, we don't want to. I think sometimes people hear personal responsibility as self-blame. Self-blame is just, if it was effective, I'd say blame yourself. It isn't. Self-blame leads to despair, it leads to depression, leads to anxiety, it leads to inaction. So it's not about saying, oh, I'm such a bad person. It's saying, hey, if I did something that was unhelpful, great. You either win or you learn. Let me learn from this and change my behavior. But responsibility is that whatever's happened, I have the ability to respond. So even if I directly caused it or somebody else caused it, instead of going onto a pity party, I can actually ask myself, what response can I choose here? How can I deal with this? That's personal responsibility.
Fantastic. So personal responsibility, positivity,
presence.
Right? You wanna?
Yeah. So presence. Meditation is a way to do it. The problem with meditation is that it is long and arduous, and people often, give up. I've developed something called the mental wealth workout. It's a 5-minute daily practice that boosts happiness, it boosts calm, it boosts resilience, and each one of these factors has been scientifically proven. And so I think there's there's quicker and easier ways to do this. We all know we've got to work out our bodies,
yeah.
right? Well, we need to work out our minds as well. Why do we think that that's just going to take care of itself?
Right.
So that's something, and that presence, is within the mental wealth workout. We cultivate some of that presence so that we know what it's like to actually be in the now, right? Experience the beautiful sensations in our bodies, the sights of the sun. I mean, there's this treasure of sensation that is available to us at any moment, but we're busy worrying, about, something that's not going to happen instead.
So, and what are the final two? I mean, if we maybe very quickly.
Sure. So the people is a critical one, right? So the longest longitudinal study of all time, Harvard University, started in the 1930s, still running today. It's called the Grant Study of Human Thriving, to figure out really what it takes to be happy and successful. And
you wrote a book on that,
perfectly
right?
brought that out. I mean, I
Winning Relationships.
literally wrote that up, wrote that book because of this. So how's this? On this one factor, if you're high on this factor, you earn $120,000 more a year than if you're lowest on this factor, and you're happier. In fact, there's a 0.7% correlation. So think of that as you basically 70% correlation between happiness and this one factor. What is it? Interesting phrase they use in the research: the warmth of your relationships. If you've got warm, loving, connected relationships, you're going to be happy. Think about it. When you're fighting with your partner or your friend or your colleague, how happy are you, right? So we really depend on our relationships. But what I've realized is that some people are just not that skilled. I wasn't that skilled. I wasn't, my communication skills, I didn't listen enough. These are things that we can all develop, and it's not difficult. That's the thing. This is not rocket science, but you want to make sure that you really actively develop those relationships. 21 laws of winning with relationships, of influence in love.
Pick up this book,
business. And quite honestly, the first one is the most important. Give to get. You want to get more, give more, right?
And
you know that. I mean, that's what and Roshan, I really appreciate you and your team. And I mean, these guys are such givers. You do such great work out there. You're uplifting kids, you're uplifting communities. And I really believe that's why your business is so successful. Now, I know you're not doing it so that you can have a successful business. You're doing it because you love to give, because giving feels good. By the way, it boosts oxytocin, which is a natural anti-inflammatory. And that's why, first, the bad news: if you have a major stress in your life, you get divorced, go bankrupt, over the next year, you've got a 30% increased chance of dying. The good news is if you're somebody who regularly helps, supports, uplifts others, your increased chances of dying are zero. That's oxytocin, this natural anti-inflammatory. So when we are doing good, we are feeling good, but our bodies are actually healthier too.
Fantastic. And the last factor?
Oh, gosh, he's going to squeeze me out. I thought we'd keep it.
Okay, maybe we can keep that.
Well, no, let's go there. So the last one is, the fifth P is performance. And that's, what are we going to do, right? Because my big concern, and I know that's a concern of yours as well, is that we bring people into learning interventions, but how do we ensure that actually take action? Because if we don't do anything differently, it's not going to mean anything. So what I'd really like anybody who's watching this to do right now, from what you've heard, just write down one thing that you're going to do differently, whatever it is. Maybe you're going to decide every day, before I go to bed, I'm going to focus on 3 things that I'm grateful for. Maybe you're going to decide every day I'm going to catch 3 people doing things right. Yeah, I'm going to give appreciation. Maybe you're going to prioritize happiness. Hey, that thing that I really enjoy, like gardening, I'm going to do more of it, whatever it is, right? Just want to write it down, say when you're going to do it, be real specific about it, and you are going to experience tremendous benefit that is going to have a ricochet effect in your personal life, your family, your team, and beyond.
Wow, amazing. And I know a lot of us, we hear something, we get motivated, we attend a talk like this, or we get inspired and we say we're going to do this, right? And we do it once, right? But then we don't do it. Like, for example, let's say on this wellness show, right? So let's say we want to lose weight, we want to be a little bit less obese and healthier, and we want to cut down our meals. Maybe it's 2 meals a day instead of 3, or whatever it is. And we say we do it for a week, or maybe 3 days. 4th day we skip 1, then we skip 2, and then after a while it's back to maybe it's 4 meals a day now instead of 3, right?
Right.
How do we get to a point that I'm going to do it, going to stick with it, and it's going to be sustained, right?
Right. So it's really about 2 things: motivation and habit formation. So motivation, you've got to want it. So in that moment where firstly, ask anybody who works out regularly, they'll tell you it's the best part of their day. I mean, I did a workout before I did this show. Why? Because I know if I do the workout, I'm going to feel better. I'm not doing it to try and lose weight.
Feel your energy.
My energy is higher. I promise you, if I didn't work out, dude, I would not have this energy. I do it because I want to feel good. So I get this pleasure out of it.
So that's internal motivation.
Correct. We're motivated by two things, pain and pleasure. That's it. So it's the pleasure of the workout. Now you tell people you never work out and they say, just what are you, some kind of sadomasochist? I don't get the pleasure. It takes time. Initially, it's uncomfortable. So the thing about any habit, it's uncomfortable. It's not wired in the brain, right? It's not neurologically wired into the brain. And so what the neuroscience shows us is that it takes some time to get there. 30 days or more or less, depending on the habit and the person. But for those first 30 days, expect it to be painful. Expect it to be uncomfortable. I want to tell you a story. This happened literally today. And I know that we're probably tight on time. And I see the camera guys are getting a little nervous. But I want to share this with you. So I'm staying in this beautiful hotel. It's the and they're not a sponsor here. So we're not trying to.
4 Points.
It's the 4 Points Sheraton. It's a gorgeous hotel. There's a pool. It's this big, beautiful stretch pool. Right outside the pool, there is the tallest building. What is in the region? Is it the Twin Towers? No, it's the other one that's just being built. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's right by the pool. It's exquisite, right? Now, I'm not even a big swimmer, but I do a workout and I see a pool like that. I'm like, I'm going to get in that pool and I'm going to get in that pool every day because it's like you're swimming in this gorgeous pool, this incredible building. And it's such an adventure. I absolutely love it. Roshan, do you know in 5 days, I've been going down every day because this is my 5th day. Every day, I have not seen a single other person in that pool.
Wow.
And that is not because the hotel's empty. The hotel is buzzing with people. Very seldom do I even see a person sort of sitting near the pool. Today, I think there's one person sitting in the pool. I think it's the first time I've seen that. What is going on? What is going on, dude? And here's what I think's going on. I think people look at the pool and go, that's cool. But then they think, oh, I got to take off my clothes, put on my swimming costume. I got to waddle downstairs. Then I got to jump in the water. It's going to be a little cold. It's going to be uncomfortable. And they're not wrong. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. But here's the thing. Do what is comfortable. Your life will be dull, boring, and painful because you will not have the same energy level. You will not do what is a little uncomfortable, right? And your life will be more than comfortable. It'll be exhilarating. It'll be an adventure. And that's what I've been having every day. There is something wrong that it's only me here. And so I want to encourage you. And what you've got to focus on here's the thing, pain and pleasure. If you're focusing on the pain of taking off my clothes, the water's cold, then your pleasure-loving brain loves pleasure. It's going to say, don't do it.
Yeah.
Right? That's what all those people in the hotel are saying. They don't. Yeah, it looks cool. It's painful, right? My brain's going, yeah, a little uncomfortable, but to be in this gorgeous pool and overlooking. I love KL. I mean, KL is such a gorgeous city. Overlooking this gorgeous city with the 5th tallest building in the world. What an adventure! I'm focusing on the pleasure that'll come after the discomfort. Right? And that's what you want to do with exercise, with intermittent fasting. We were discussing this last night. Intermittent fasting. Initially, I was like, but I get so much pleasure out of breakfast. Then I discovered, man, I get so much pleasure out of the energy, the increased energy that I get, by not having breakfast first thing in the morning. So we got to focus on the long-term pleasure rather than the short-term pain.
Absolutely.
That's the key. Once we've done that, we're not done yet. We got to put in place a habit formation process. And that's a bigger story, but we want to do things that increase the chances, things like habit trackers, things like social accountability, things like reminders. Those are some of the ways in which we ensure that we follow through. So motivation is not enough, but motivation plus good habit formation technology, you can transform yourself, you can transform your team, you can transform your business, you can transform the planet.
And they can learn more if you follow. We're gonna put up. You can follow Dr. J and learn more about him and all the stuff that he does and all the wonderful insights on all the socials, right? Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, everything. And he's there. And this show should also be on his on his
absolutely
LinkedIn,
on LinkedIn. And I now do 4 reels they're 1-minuters because I really believe we can get a lot of insight out of 60 seconds every week. Whatever platform you want, I upload to all of them. There's 4 reels on raising your success, your happiness, your emotional well-being, and sometimes dealing with the tough stuff, right? Your resentment or a breakup. So really getting you some breakthrough insights there.
Fantastic. And all of it is going to be on Nicole, which is a product called GLS year round. And we're going to end this show by showing a short little reel on the GLS year round. Justin, thank you so much for being with us. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
We will definitely get you back again on Wellness Wednesday, and
I look
we'll go
forward to it.
deeper on
Great.
habits and
Great.
and how we can, even what Wim Hof. I mean, we talked in the previous episode. We talked about ice baths, right?
Mm.
And everybody hates it, but it's like you said, right? It's about motivating yourself for short-term pain for long-term pleasure. And I think
Exactly.
that's a fantastic insight. So
Mm.
maybe as we wrap it up, just one, maybe in 10 to 15 seconds, your final piece of advice, your nugget of wisdom to close out this episode for us. One thing that we can do.
Invest in your happiness. Your happiness is not just a reward for doing good in the world. Your happiness leads you to do more good in the world. For yourself, your family, your team, your community. Be happy, spread the happiness.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. So we'll end with the GLS year round quick video. Thank you very much. We will be back every Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday. Keep you posted. Thank you again, Justin. We will see you around.
Thank you, Ryan.